Now, next one called enterprise applications. Enterprise applications are something used for the enterprises, means any government agencies or any business related applications, any business related applications you are developing. Okay, this is where generally we need to work for enterprise applications, because if you are developing an enterprise application, make sure the major difference if you compare with the other application like standalone, two-tier, standalone or client server or web applications and all, enterprise applications are developed based upon the rules and regulations of the organization, because every organization will have some rules and regulations. There are some governance procedures, standards, structures will be there. So people have to obey, people have to follow all that. This is where we call it as enterprise application stands for. Enterprise one applications means this. For example, any any organization for any government agencies, whatever the applications we are developing is called enterprise application. Means depends on the enterprise structure, depends on the rules and regulations, policies, procedures, and all. What are the applications are we designing? At the same time, how these applications was interconnected within the organization. These are, we call it as enterprise applications, or you can also call it as business applications. Enterprise application or a business application, whatever you can call. The next one is called cloud applications. What is meant by cloud application? Cloud application means, I'll write down here. Cloud applications means application. Normally applications are two. Okay, let me write down the description here. Okay. Normally applications are on-premise applications, because whatever I have explained you so far, all these are on-premise. On-premise means these applications will be developed and it will be installed within the organization. Okay, if you want to make any kind of changes or something, you have to make the changes here. But of course, web application is an excuse for that. But these are all normally on-premise applications. Because of on-premise application, what is the problem? Because of on-premise application, if you want to make any kind of changes, or if you want to make any kind of integrations or something, or if you want to add some new features and functionalities, new versions, this is really difficult. Even if there is any changes happens technically, making some changes and all everything is something really difficult. In this regard, nowadays, most of the applications are moving to cloud application. Cloud means, cloud applications means we develop the application by taking the application by taking a support of a cloud service provider. A cloud service provider. Okay. We develop an application by taking a service of cloud service provider. Cloud service provider is something like, for example, if you have taken right, so if you have taken AWS, so Azure, Google Cloud, right? So all these things, these are all something GCP, Google Cloud Platform, right? So all these things are comes under this category, right? So using different cloud service providers and all, we are developing applications so that application will be developed in the cloud environment. You don't require any kind of physical systems as separate. You don't require any physical infrastructure underlying this point. I'm not saying virtual environment. Physical infrastructure. You don't require any physical requirement infrastructure like servers, firewalls for data protection, right? So you don't need all these. Simply what you are doing, you're developing application on the cloud environment. Cloud service. 1 minute. Right. So cloud service provider, we are developing application on the cloud environment so that you don't require to develop in the on-premise services. You don't need it, right? It's a cloud application you are developing. So this is what we call it as cloud applications. Most of the applications are cloud. But when you have trying to understand about cloud applications, normally cloud services are categorized into three different parts. So one is IWS, means infrastructure as a service. Second, we call it as PWS, which is called platform as a service. The third one is called SWS, means software as a service. I'll show you an example so that you'll be understood better for this. I think it must be here. Just give me a minute. Just give me a minute. Show you that. Yeah. So here you can see, for example, if any cloud service providers are these. Okay. One is about IWS, which is called infrastructure as a service. Second, platform as a service, software as a service. Means, let's say X is an organization. X is an organization. They want some application. They want some application. This application, they want to reduce the operational cost, because licensed software is required for you to develop the application. Lot of software cost you to purchase licenses. Again, how many users you have to buy user licenses subsequently. Lot of cost is involved in it, even for you to develop as well as for the customer to use. So what we have to do now, we have to develop this application in the cloud. But if you want to develop application in the cloud environment, you have to opt what kind of service is needed. Because software as an application, if you have taken application, you're just simply you're developing application is not required. You need to create a platform. So for that, you have to hire platform services. At the same time, if you want to protect your data from malware attacks and all, right? So you require some firewalls and all, everything you required, or you want to store your data, or else you want to deploy some applications and all, wherein you require some virtual machines to be created. This is where generally we call it as infrastructure as a service. So there are three things. One is about infrastructure as a service. Second, platform as a service. Third is a software as a service. Infrastructure as a services can be taken. For example, if you want an application to be developed for our requirements, infrastructure services again will be layers. I can simply call it as a layer. Normally two different layers. If you are opting for infrastructure as a service from any cloud service provider, either it can be AWS, it can be Azure, it can be Google Cloud, it can be IBM, it can be any cloud service provider, matter to the fact. Okay, anyone, because there are a lot of cloud, but prominent cloud service providers are these. Hence, I'm explaining these as an example to you. So when you are trying to understand about infrastructure as a service, infrastructure services are two different. So infrastructure layer is separate, data centers are different. Infrastructure layer means if you want any kind of storage capacity, any firewalls, networking is required, or if you want to create any kind of virtual machines, right? So because you don't require any physical systems to deploy the application, in a single application, you can create virtual machines, multiple virtual machines, so that 3-4 applications can run on the single application, single system only. You don't require to create anything as separate. This is what we call it as virtual machines concept is. So if you want to have that service, for example, being a customer, okay, so you can opt for infrastructure services. This is all because AWS, because AWS is the best example for infrastructure, because AWS is prominently successful in IWS classes, because AWS EC2, Elasticsearch, right? So we have lot many things for there, database management, right? So they are very prominent in that area. So infrastructure as a service is what something which we call it as infrastructure layer. The next is data center layer. Means if you want to maintain any kind of data centers, because large scale of applications when you are managing, for example, banking client, right? So banking client have lot of banking operations, and they have spread it across different parts of the country, maybe across the country, or maybe across world, or maybe continent. It's different. Depends on the size of the bank. There are a lot of operations, millions of data will be transformed here and there. It requires some protection and all, right? So it is all something required. So what they want a separate data center for them. because they cannot run the application in public cloud. Normally, cloud services will be of three types. I can say three types. One is public cloud. Second is called private cloud. Third one is called hybrid cloud. Okay, three different cloud: public cloud, private cloud, hybrid cloud. Public cloud means it's not a premium service. Okay, it's a public cloud account, means space will be given to you, whatever the services you are taking. For example, you want infrastructure as a service, whatever the available services there they are having in that service provider, they will be providing to you with some normal cost. Nominal cost means general cost. And that public cloud can be accessed by anyone. You can put some restrictions for that. Point to be noted. Second, private cloud. Private cloud means, let's say, as I told you, right? So when you are working on some enterprise applications, banks, insurance companies, healthcare organizations, they cannot run and they cannot develop and run their application on public cloud, which is really because security purpose or some for some whatsoever reason they want it. What they want a private cloud. Means they want a private space for their application to develop. So this is what generally we call it as private cloud services are. In this private cloud services, they create a separate private cloud service for our requirement, and we can use it. For example, you are going for a vacation. Okay, so you can take a separate house, right? So in that vacation for 2 days, you want to stay with your family, or you can take a separate house, a separate individual house. For that, it is expensive. If you are taking a studio, for example, correct me if I'm wrong, right? So if you are taking a studio from there, there will be 2, 3 floors, right? Each and every floor, you may be having two different rooms. This is, I'm just giving an example in a simple manner. Okay, public cloud kind of, this is maintaining studios and all is a public cloud concept. Private cloud means you have a separate house for you as separate, right? Which is no way connected with others, right? So you have the privacy. You have all the necessary requirements. Everything will be arranged. You have a separate. You don't have any cloud kitchen. You have a separate kitchen space. If you want to cook some food, you can have, right? So etc. etc. Right? So depends. Services are different. So this is what we call it as concept called private cloud. Means private cloud services will be provided. So in this private cloud, they require some data centers because millions of data will run. There is high level of security required for the data to be maintained. So organizations want some data centers, different data centers and all, depends on the kind of data they are maintaining. They require to maintain some bandwidth, disk, memory, all that. So this is all comes under private cloud. Third one is hybrid cloud. Hybrid cloud means both combination of private and public cloud can be taken by some people. This is all customization. So cloud applications, and the advantage in cloud applications is that whatever the services are you using, you are paying only for that, right? You are not paying anything extra. And user, how many users are using that service and how many login credentials you require, you have to pay only for that. And services you are using, you are paying only for that. You are not paying anything extra. That's an advantage. At the same time, maintenance cost won't be there. No investment cost, no maintenance cost for the user, even to develop as well as to use it. This is the infrastructure service. Next is a platform service. Means you require some platform. For example, social frameworks, right? So for example, Google App Engine or something like, right? So you require a platform. Or else, for example, using some DevOps environment, we require a platform to create, because developers required a platform to construct a application. Let's say you are constructing a building, okay, 3 floor or 4 floors building or 10 floors building you're constructing. You require a platform, right? So you require to create a platform first. You have to make it very stronger. Depends on the kind of soil which exactly it is having there. So you required a platform first to create. Then on that you are constructing a building. The same way, if you want to develop any application, there is a platform we have to create. A platform layer is needed. So I can say DevOps is the one of example, right? So DevOps platform can be created, whatever the tools it can be. Or else as an example, like Google App Engine, right? So these are all the platform layer. If you want to have a service of platform, you can take it. Third one is called software as a service. Software as a service means you are developing an application. It's a general thing. Okay, whatever the Salesforce, everything comes under that category. Salesforce, Microsoft Dynamics, whatever the cloud applications now and then we are using. For example, we are using Jira, Okay, of course, Jira is not, it's a cloud application, but it's not something services taken by someone, but usually, right? So these are all applications. Applications means for different requirement purposes, you are developing software, right? So this are all, this is a common thing. SaaS is a common thing. Any application, whatever the kind of application you want to use, either it for the social media or for the mailing system, or it for maybe for CRM purposes, or it may be for ERP purpose, or maybe for any other entertainment purposes and all. What are the applications you want to develop? This is where generally software services comes into picture. So normally these software services are used by the users because we being a user are using it. Platform developers require to create a platform to construct that application so that users can use it accordingly. The third thing is about backend, which is called system administrators, has to construct the infrastructure or data centers for the application. This is what generally, yeah. So this is what generally we call it as data layer, right? So this is what generally we call it as cloud applications are. So these are the different types of applications will be there. There were many remote applications. I can say like robotic process or RPA related applications. There were many. I'm not going more detail. Not many because those much of thing is not required. So presentation is standalone applications, two-tier applications, web applications, enterprise, cloud applications. These are the different applications will be there. So whatever the view you want to see, this is the view which we see. And whatever the applications, whatever that are we going to use, this is how generally the software system looks like. For example, you required some applications and data stores and all. This data stores required have to have some different components. To develop the components, you require some code to be written because using different code and all. And this code will be built by the people. This is how generally the software system have four things. One is about containers, means applications and data stores. Second, components, one or more components. To develop these components, you require some code, whatever the language, programming language are you using, either to prepare some class objects interface, functions, etc. This will be built by the people. So if you have taken any software system which has four layers, containers, I'm not saying presentation layer, public layer, and right. So business layer, that is different. If you have seen any software system, containers, components, code elements, people. These are the four basic pillars for any application.